Hi, this is Karen from Karen's Cards and More, back with you today to do, this time I'm going to do a little bit different. I usually always do one main card. Today I'm going to show you a process. We're going to start with simple and step it up, and I want to show you how you might incorporate that to get more from just an idea than one card. So the projects I'm going to show today are from the Waves of the Ocean collection, and it will be available to the end of April, but some of the parts of the collection are while supplies last. So if you like what you see, you might want to go ahead and get them ordered. When the new May catalog comes out, the stamp set and the die set are in the new catalog, but the other elements are not. So you definitely would want to pick this up, and the foil paper alone is to me worth the whole thing. So let's get right into it. Sometimes we come up with a design and we think, oh, that's pretty simple. And we make a card, a 5-minute card. Maybe we need a 5-minute card. So we do something really simple, and then we put that thought away. But it's just as easy to take a simple card. This is the card I started with, pretty simple, mostly just stamping. This is one little die cut. Everything else is just stamped, and then I let the paper and the way I put it together in the matting speak for the card. Pretty simple. If you're a beginning stamper, this might challenge you, and that's okay. Start with what you can do. So I started with this, and I said, now, how can I step that up a little bit? So then I went to this card. I have a few more die cut elements. I used some other die cuts that maybe, I would have never thought to use on this card. And there's very little stamping, only the sentiment is stamped. And then I went from that, and I think, well, how can I step that up again? So with one design, I've got 3 cards. I just kept stepping it up and stepping it up. So this was the second one. Well, then the third one, I used even more die cuts. I layered some of the foil. I did this element here, and I did something special with the little pelican on top. So one design got me 3 beautiful cards. And so I'm going to take you through the process. We're going to make one card today, but we're going to start with elements that are on all 3. And then I'm going to show you if there's something special, like I'll show you the cloud. And then when I get to this one, I'll show you how to put that foil wave on. And this one, I'll show you stepped up elements from that one. So this is the one we're actually going to have at the end when we're completed. So let's go with the first design, the simple design. So let's start with that. The beginning process for all 3 are exactly the same. So we're starting with a basic white cardstock that is 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. And then we have a piece of the designer series paper, and I'm using this blue swirly, but look at the back side. It is gorgeous. This whole set of paper is really cool. And this is 4 by 5 1/4. Then I'm using the blue foil. There's blue foil, Coastal Cabana foil, and silver foil that comes in this kit. All 3 are absolutely stunning. This is 3 3/4 by 5. And then you'll need a piece of basic white that is 3.5 by 4 3/4. And that's the one we're going to do our stamping on. So the first step in all 3 cards, exactly the same. We're going to start by putting our designer series paper on our card base. So you would do the same step for no matter which of the 3 you were doing. So I'm just adding my liquid glue. I'm just going to center this in here, press it down. Okay, next step, I'm just going to add liquid glue on the back of my foil piece. Now I will tell you with the foil, whenever you're working with any kind of foil cardstock, you want to be careful with your glue because it is much harder to get off the foil than it is the cardstock. So like if you're using the gum erasers that take the adhesive off, it can leave marks on your foil that are hard to get off. Okay, so this part is the same no matter which of the 3 cards you want to do. So I'm going to set this aside and we're going to work on the wave. And I'm going to show you how I did the wave for this one, and then the other 2 cards, the wave is the same, and I'll show you the process for that. So for this, I want to use my Stamparatus. And the reason I'm using the Stamparatus is for the technique I'm doing, I need to be able to double stamp, and this is the best way to do that. So I already have my wave on here, and I'm going to go ahead and put my cardstock on. And I know ahead of time how I want to line this up, so I've worked with it to know, but I want to show you something when I get this on here. I'm just going to put my magnets in the upper corners. That looks right. Okay, on this stamp, there is a little bit extra at the bottom and on this edge. If you line the edge of the stamp up with the edge of the paper, you're going to end up with white all the way around your wave. So it's important that when you line your stamp up with your paper, that you're lining it up with where the actual stamp is. So I just scooted it over and up a little once I figured out where I wanted the wave to make sure, and I can see that it's in far enough, and that's going to make sure my whole wave is on my paper and not have that white trim. So if you don't offset it like that, you're going to have a white space all the way around. So I'm going to start with Balmy Blue. And I'm going to go ahead and put another ink pad under here just so it doesn't flop while I'm working with it. So the first thing I'm going to do is, this is my base color for my wave. So I'm just going to ink up my stamp. Get it good and inked up. Now you could just start with one color and leave it at that. But I didn't want just a one color wave. So for the first one, what I did is I started with the Balmy Blue, and then I came in with Pacific Point. And I'm using a sponge dauber. And then I just went and pounced some color just randomly around the wave with the Pacific Point. Just like that. That's all I did. And then I stamped it. That's how I did the first one. But for the second two, after I got to that part, I came in with Night of Navy and pounced a little more color. So now I've got 3 colors on here. Okay. And then I'm going to stamp. So the first card just had the Balmy Blue and the Pacific Point. Then for the other 2 cards where I stepped it up, I added the Night of Navy. So I'm just putting some pressure on this just to make sure it's good and pressed down. Now, maybe you like it just like that. Maybe you don't. I want to add more color on this one. So I'm going to just repeat that whole process and see what it does for my stamped image. So I'm just cleaning my stamp real quick. And I'm just going to do all of that again so I have double the color. So I'm going to ink up with my Balmy Blue. Then I'm going to come in with my Pacific Point. And if you think you have enough of the navy but not enough of the other colors, then just don't use navy on this one. Just use the other colors. So I'm going to come in with my Pacific Point, and again, I'm just randomly daubing some ink. And then I'm going to come in with the Night of Navy, and I'm going to do the same thing. Just a few random specks of it. And again, I'm going to come in with this, and I'm just going to press down, give it a good rub, get my color transferred. And there, and I like that. I'm perfectly happy with that. If you still weren't happy, you could keep layering colors. You could just do one color if you just wanted more of one. For example, let's say I wanted more of the Night of Navy. I could just daub some Night of Navy, stamp that again, and until I get it to the colors I want. But I like where we're at, so I'm going to stop with that. I'm just going to move this out of the way. Now, for the first card, remember, I only did 2 colors on it, but then I just used, there's a little bird stamp, and I used black memento. I did my stamping, I did my greeting in the Night of Navy, added a cloud and some gems, but let me just show you what I did with the cloud. So in the die cuts, I'm going to bring those in so that you can see the dies that I used. So here's the set of die cuts that you can get, the coordinating die cuts. And all of this comes if you buy the collection. If you don't get the collection and just buy the stamp set and the dies as a bundle, this is what you'll get. So the dies can look a little intimidating, but I'm going to walk you through how to use them. So this right here is the basic cloud shape. There's the larger cloud and the smaller cloud. That's what I'm using to punch the little cloud that we're using to start with. I'm just going to come in with the Balmy Blue. And again with my sponge dauber. And I'm just going to get a little of the Balmy Blue on there. And I'm just going around the edges. Just daubing color around the edges. Just to give it a little bit of blue. And you can give it as much or as little as you want. Just go around the edge. And that's all I did for the cloud on this first card. I glued my cloud on and did my greeting, did my birds, added a few gems. Boom, card 1 done. Simple, done. Now let's talk about stepping it up. So my first step up, I went to this. Now, putting everything together, stamping this, all the same. So let's talk about what changed. Well, what changed is the birds. I didn't stamp the birds, I die cut the birds. So there's this little, in the dies, there's this little die here. You get 2 birds. One's, the wings are more open, which is this one. And the other, the wings are closer together, like that. And I cut, that you get 2 birds, one of each type when you run this through. And I'm using one of the whiter silver foil and 2 of the Coastal Cabana foil. So I die cut those. And then look at these clouds, really interesting. Let me show you that. So I showed you the dies that you use to get the cloud image, but then there's these 2 other strange looking dies. And those create an accent piece for your clouds. And I'm going to show you that, how I put that together so that you can see the process of that. Then I used this shape here to cut out my sentiment. And then we're going to look at this piece. So this is this. There's two dies for waves. One you can see is more closed at the top. The other has these like little, I call them fingers. So those two will layer together pretty well. So for this first card, I just used this one in the blue foil. So let's start with that. So let's add that. And I can add this to my card that I'm working on because adding this blue wave piece is the same for both cards. So I'm just going to bring this in. Okay, got one more little piece that I need to pop out. Now this looks like and it is an intricate die, but the pieces come out really easy. I didn't have any trouble with it. Now, when you're gluing foil, you need to be really careful. You don't want to get glue on your mat and then move this around on the mat, because if you get that glue on the front, it's really hard to get off. So you want to be a little bit careful. Now there's a lot of different ways you could have cut this out of with an adhesive sheet on the back, so you could just peel it off. It makes it like a sticker and then stick it down. You could put some glue on your silicone mat and use a sponge, but I was worried about getting glue transferred to the front. And the Tombow glue is really easy to kind of dot glue on, if you will. You could use the fine tip glue pen, whatever works for you. So I'm just adding dots. I'm just going around with the Tombow glue and adding dots of glue. This is going to hold down pretty well without getting glue on every little piece. The edges, you definitely want to get glue on. Okay, now I'm ready to put this on my card. So I'm just going to line it up along the side and along the bottom. And then I'm going to press everything down. Just like that. And then I'm just going to turn this over and cut that off. Now for our second card, that's all you do. You're done with the wave. You're ready to add your other elements, and then you're good to go. So I'm just going to set that down because I want to show you how to do the clouds on the second one. So I used a small one and a large one. And in my demonstration here, I'm going to show you doing the large one. The process is the exact same for the smaller one. And I'm using Night of Navy for this because in the third card, I used Night of Navy. But this is just gray granite. So it's the same process as what I'm showing you. It was just a different color. So I'm coming in with this strange looking piece that I told you. And I'm doing the same thing, just dotting glue on the back. Okay, this lines up really easy. I like to get the corners of this middle part down here set, because then the rest of it just kind of falls into place. And then I'm just going to press everything down. And what that does is give your cloud a little bit of dimension. Can you see how it makes the fluffy parts of the cloud stand out? So for the second card, I did that with the gray granite. I did a large one and a small one. And then I glued them down on my card front. This is going to go on the third stepped up, so that's why I did it with this color. Now, the other thing I want to show you about the second card, the sentiment. So I used this die cut to cut this piece out. I stamped my greeting, and I did that with black memento. Then, I don't know if you can see, but in these little holes, I put the blue foil. So all I did is I took scraps from where I cut out my wave, and I cut little pieces that I glue on the back of the sentiment strip just to cover those holes, and put some dimensionals on the back and put it on my card. That's all I did. So very easy to do. That's card number 2. That's all the special techniques for card number 2. But let's go back to card number 3 because we got more to do. So we've done our cloud. We're stamping the birds. Look at the wave. You've got the blue foil. Can you see the blue foil in the background? Then we got to add this silver piece. So let's start with that. So this is the other die cut that I showed you. Bring back in my die cuts. So we used this in blue. Now we're going to use this one with these little fingers out of the silver. And then we're going to layer that right on top of our blue foil. We'll line the edges up in the exact same way. So let's get some glue on this. Okay, now let's just line this up. Move my cloud a little bit. The worst part is when you get the glue on your fingers. So I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm going to line it up on the left side. So I'm lining my silver piece up on the left, and then I'm coming across the bottom to line it up. And if I've got those where I want it, everything else is just going to fall where it falls. So then I'm just going to come along and press that down. Just like that. And like I said, when you get glue on your fingers, that's the worst part. Now on this one, we're also using the pelican. So we're going to look at that next. Go ahead and trim this off. Okay. Okay, so we've got that base part of our waves. Look at how cool that already looks. So then I'm going to bring in a scrap of basic white that I'm going to use for my pelican. And for this, I'm going to use crumb cake and gray granite. First thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to stamp the whole thing with the crumb cake. Now you could stamp this and color it, but I didn't want to do the coloring. I liked the detail that I could see, and I just didn't want to go in and color it. So, and I'm just stamping this down. Just like that. I'm done with the crumb cake. Then I'm going to clean my stamp. And then for the gray granite, all I need to do is ink up just down right below the bird's feet. That's got plenty. And then I'm just going to stamp this right down here. Just like that. Now, here's the die cut for this piece. The crumb cake, we're going to die cut the whole thing. When I go to die cut the other part, I'm going to just go ahead and die cut what I have stamped, and then I'll show you how we're going to put that together. So let me go ahead and do the die cutting. Okay, so I have both pieces die cut. pop that out of there. So then I'm just going to take my paper snips and I'm just going to trim where his feet are. I'm just going to trim around his feet, cutting that piece of wood off. So if you like fussy cutting, this is mixing fussy cutting with die cutting. And then I'm just going to go around that a little bit, just like that. So that basically isolates our little pelican there, because I wanted him a different color, but I wanted to show you how you don't always have to color it. You can use creative ways, and it gives a really cool effect. So I want to add him to that piece, but I don't want to just glue him down flat. I want to give him some dimension. So I'm going to come in with my mini dimensionals. And I'm just going to add a few of these to our pelican. Try to get one right up on his head. Should be good. I'm just going to pull the paper off the back of these, and then we're ready to attach these to our other piece. So I'm just going to line the feet up and line the tail up, and then as I'm pressing down, I'll just make sure everything else is in alignment. And that pops up our pelican and gives a little dimension to our piece. So I liked how that turned out. So I'm going to come in. This is the piece that I die cut. And this on the die cuts is this smaller piece right here. And I'm using the Happy Birthday that comes in the set. I'm using the black memento for this. I'm just going to ink it up. And I'm just going to put this down on my strip. So we're ready to work with this and to put it on our card. That's the next step we want to do. So I'm going to use the linen twine. And I just measured, I want to give myself double the width of the card and then just a little bit to make sure I have plenty for what I want to do. I'm just going to clip that off like that. And then I just want to double this. Now, if you come up with a different way to do this that is easier for you, then by all means do that. But this is just how I put it together. So I'm just doubling it. And then the loop end, I'm just putting down through the sentiment strip, down through the front, just pinch it together and put it down through the little hole on the right side and pull it over to the left side and then push it up through the left side. Just like that. And as you pull, you want to keep a hold of your strings on the right so you don't pull it all the way through. And then you'll be able to play with placement on that. I know I want it down along the bottom. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to see about where I want it. And I think that will be about right there. And I'm just going to fold these to the back. And I just used Scotch tape to hold this down. So I'm going to bring in some Scotch tape. And I'm just going to press this down. Then I'm going to tighten my other two ends, and I can separate that a little bit and work with that a little bit once I get it all taped together, all attached. So I want to pull these not so tight that I bend my cardstock, but I don't want a whole lot of slack in it either. And then I'm going to kind of make sure that the sentiment is laying straight. And then the same thing, I'm pulling these to the back. And I'm going to just take a piece of Scotch tape and hold these down. Okay, now I'm going to trim that edge so that it's not flopping onto out from underneath my white. Okay, now let's just turn this over and take a look. Okay, then you can kind of spread the twine apart a little bit to give it that, I wanted them separated. I didn't want them right on top of each other. And you can just keep playing with those ends till you get them where you want them. Okay. Now, then what I did is so that wouldn't be moving around, I just came in with my glue dots and my Take Your Pick tool. And I just took a glue dot and I put it under each end. I just stuck it behind there and then pressed it down so that sentiment wouldn't be floating around. Just pressing that down into that glue stick or glue dot. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and put this on our card base and then we're going to finish it. So I'm just going to come in with my liquid glue. I'm going right over that twine. Okay. Then I'm going to bring in my card base. And again, with this, you want to be careful when you put it down because you don't want to have to slide around too much on your foil or you'll be able to see the glue. It'll leave a mark that's hard to get off. So I'm just keeping the right side lifted up while I make sure the left side's where I want it, and then I'm pressing down. Okay, so we're done with our liquid glue. So now the only thing left is to put all these pieces together. We're going to be using the little bird and the black memento to add our birds on here. We're going to be using the gems. So I want to have those handy because we're going to attach those as well. Okay. So let's go ahead and start with putting our pelican on. So he's going to go on next, and I'm just going to put some dimensionals on here and pop him up. I want to put them where they're not going to be seen. And then for the head, I just took a little piece off the edge. I just cut a little piece like that and just put this down in the head. just to give it stability. Peeling the backing off. And I'm just going to stick this down. And you can play with the placement wherever you want it. I'm just tucking it underneath my twine. Now I don't like it tucked underneath, so I'm gonna just let it go on top just a little bit. I'm moving over just a little. Okay, there, I've got my pelican on. We can go ahead and add our cloud. And I'm just using the liquid glue on the back of this. And I'm gonna just kind of put this at a little bit of an angle. And then using the black memento, I'm just going to do a few birds. And then the only thing left is to put a few of our gems on here. So there's large ones and then there's smaller ones. There's the varying colors of them. So I'm going to use, on this one, I'm going to use one of the dark blue. Let's see where I want this one. And then I'm going to, that was the larger one. And then I'm going to use two of the lighter blue as accents. So I'm doing a total of 3, just like that. And then we're ready to fold the card in half. And there you have it. The one we just did. Here's the one that I did earlier. Here's your other versions of this card made with the same design. So you can take a simple design and then just step it up in segments, you know, step it up a little bit, then step it up a little more. And so from one idea, I've got 3 cards. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you'll be a subscriber, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell. You'll be notified every time I upload a video. Give me a thumbs up if you like what you see. That helps me with my YouTube channel. Be sure to check out my Facebook group, my Facebook page, and if you want any of the products you've seen here, you can go to my online store, karensmith.stampinup.net. Soon I will have my blog site up and going, and then I'll be able to give you that address as well. Hope you've enjoyed this, and I'll be back to craft with you again soon.